Good evening. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Freedom Thinking Community Group. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. It's always nice. I always say it. This has been going since 2014, this community group. It wasn't always online. It started when I had my awakening and I became quite lonely. I was trying to find people who I could talk to, and there wasn't anybody around my area. So I thought, I'm going to have to start my own community group. I started my own community group. It's been fantastic. I've loved it. So that's where this was born, 2014. And every single week I have gone, that I've run it, I've gone, I wonder if tonight's going to be the night that nobody turns up. And so far, that's never happened. I mean, the lowest point I had was I had two people, and it was my dad. Hello. Hi, Lou. Hi, Cakes. It was my dad and my mate. And that was a really low point. There's my niece. And my kind of surrogate niece, Kiki.
Surrogate niece? Oh, no, me.
No,
She is your niece.
Real
Real
niece.
niece.
Not real niece.
Okay.
Nice to see you. Jen's going to be joining in a second, Lou.
Okay,
just-
I'll come and say hi again in a second.
Oh.
Goodbye.
Loads of... So yeah, no, thank you everybody for joining us. You know, without you lot, this would be a really crap thing to do. Just sit and talk at a computer and not really get any feedback. I haven't really got anything that I want to talk about tonight. Forgive me, knocking the thing around. Yeah, there's stuff that if people, there's nothing that anybody wants to explore, that we can certainly talk around. There's things that I've been seeing lately. But what I'd like to do is, I like this to be interactive. I like it when we can kind of we can go somewhere. I'm guessing that I don't see anybody on the screen who I don't think has come across the principles. Al, I believe this is the first time we've met. Is that right? Forgive me if it's not. I'm just...
Yeah, no, this is the first time we met. I heard about this.
Thank God.
Pointed me
Yeah.
So
Say that again. Sorry, I was talking. It was cutting you up. Say that again.
yeah, no, it's the first time we met. I was pointed in the direction of the group by Sharon Strimling, who I think you've met. Met Sharon. I was over in O'Connor at George and Linda's event and met Sharon, and then I was saying, "Oh, there's no one near me." I was saying I didn't think there was that many people close. She said, "Oh, you must have heard of Dave and Jen." I said, "No, I've never heard of them." So sure, well, they're not far from you. So we've not met, but I have come across the three principles and through other conversations with folks.
Oh, well, if you come across Sharon, you've come across a beautiful soul.
That's true.
She's lovely, Sharon. Yeah, we're in the Lake District.
Right.
Hi. So we're about an hour up the road from you, I think.
Yeah, not far.
Not too far, but no. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, so I know everybody here has come across the principles then. And so what this is just a space where we can reflect. It's a place for conversation. It's a space for asking questions. It's a space for listening. It's a space that goes for me and Jen as well. So Jen is online now. She's with Lucia, who she'll be going to sleep, and Jen, I'm sure, will click on in. She's listening in and be contributing. But yeah, so I just want to start really, if nobody else minds, just by something I've been reflecting on. This was something that kind of started to dawn upon me a couple of months ago, I think, and just something I've been reflecting on, and it's about presence. It's about presence. How easy it is to get tied up in knots. When we get tied up in knots, it feels like life becomes quite difficult. And I know firsthand how difficult this life can be. For those that perhaps are listening to this later on, and for people that haven't met me, like I have been to prison in the past, and I've struggled with alcohol and drugs, bad affairs, breakdown of marriages. I got to the point of wanting to take my own life. Suffered depression. I'd been through the psyche system. People have had far worse lives than me. This is kind of my story and how I ended up here. And I had such a lack of presence. And I'd really tied myself in knots. Knots that looked impossible to untangle, like fishing line. If anybody's ever been fishing and got into a tangle with fishing line, that's how my life felt. So much so I just wanted to cut the line, start again. Metaphorically, I suppose I did. Apart from I didn't need to cut the line, the whole thing just unraveled. And what was left was presence. And what was left was love. Love that I can't explain. Just perfection. Abilities that I have never been able to replicate. Then in that moment, an awe, which I think was a word of the retreat, from a lady on the retreat who just said, awe, what's coming to me is awe. I'm in awe of everything, just pure awesomeness. That was the retreat that we just did in Ilfracombe, North Devon. I just want to talk a little bit about presence. One of the most vital, if not the vital space, because technically it is the only space. Just with the capacity and the ability to dream outside of it, dream the illusion of outside of it, should I say. You know, when I used to think about the now, the now was a fleeting glimpse, a fleeting moment that throughout my life I'd every now and again get a glimpse of. But in the meantime, there's life to be doing. There's trouble to be overcome. There's walls to be climbed, mountains to be climbed. There's clearing up to do. There's a big wide future out there and I've got to establish myself in it, whilst trying to clean up the messes of the past. No wonder I lived like a tangled fishing line. All the ideas, all the beliefs, all the ego, all the suffering that was created along the way, all the pain I caused others, and then to awaken. And then to awaken from the nightmare. And to realize the beauty. To realize the beauty of life. In the moment of pure presence, where everything is crystal clear. And so simple. If anybody is new to the principles, who's listened to this at some other point, The principles are a metaphor. They're words. Mind, consciousness, and thought. In and of themselves, they have no power whatsoever because they're words. Not something to get tangled up in. Not something to take too seriously. Not something to apply to ourselves. The three principles, as Sid spoke about, they're not a therapy, but they are a true psychology. In a psychiatric psychological system where theories have always been prevalent, to have principles is a game changer. And I was saying at the retreat this week, you know, what we're actually talking about is a fundamental science of mind, which isn't starting in the universities. It isn't coming into the world via the hierarchical pyramid of qualifications, starting at the top, people with the most qualifications. This understanding isn't coming in to the world from that space. It's coming in from the ground up. It's coming in from people awakening and then creating the movement. This is a grassroots movement into the fundamental understanding of the nature of reality. Wendy's just written, principles, immutable forces of nature. I like that as well, love. Principles, immutable forces of nature, because that's what principles are. These principles are pre-existing force, to which I don't know what they are. I don't know what they are. I don't know what thought is. But I know I can't. It's one of the only things I actually know. I know I can't know it. I don't know what we term consciousness, what it is. And what we term mind, I don't know what that is. Which may leave people in a position that, what the hell am I doing here? This man knows nothing. Yeah, that's true. I know absolutely nothing. We all know nothing. We're all trying to make up a story about something. That's all we ever do, is make up stories and live out of them as though they're true. We believe them. We believe our stories so much so we're prepared to drop nuclear bombs on people. We're prepared to let people starve. In fact, we're prepared to starve people. We're prepared to have arguments and fights within the household, society, and globally. We believe our story so much we think we need substances and behaviors to get rid of them. All along not realizing that in true reality, reality is an illusion. It's an illusion created within consciousness, whatever that is. An exceptionally real illusion. A paradoxical thing. One which our linear black and white thinking cannot comprehend. And if it thinks it comprehends it, it's not that. It's not it. It's not who and what we are. We're not our stories, we're not our feelings, we're not our thoughts. Yet it appears as though we are. What we are, in fact, is something called life, livingness. Existing in apparent time that doesn't actually exist, appears to exist, exists within thought. Time exists within thought, thought does not exist within time, which narrows everything down to a singular space. The now, the moment. And I just want to talk a little bit about the moment, what it means to me. We tend to think of the moment as the only point in time. It's often spoken about. If you hear people talk about the moment, they often bring time as an aspect into it. It's the only time. The time is now. We often bring time into the equation of the now in our sentences when we speak about it. But I want to talk about now, the moment, now, this here, right now, right here, right now, wherever we are, right here, right now. I want to talk about that. The now has got nothing to do with time. It's not the point at which the future becomes the past or the past becomes the future. It has nothing to do with time. Time is a complete and utter illusion. My sister's a channel. She channels consciousnesses. And she got given this message. It started with a line which I just thought was beautiful. You are not running out of time, wayward soul. You are not running out of time, wayward soul. I'm going to get my phone and I'm going to read it later on after the break. Because it's stunning. We can't run out of time. Time doesn't exist. But it's where all suffering is created. All suffering is created from the illusion of time. If you look very, very closely, you'll see that. Worries, anxieties are all based in a future. Ideas, regrets, guilt, sorrow are all based in a past. All the I'm not good enoughs are based in our illusory past. I should have been better. All based in the past. All suffering is created from our illusion of time. You see, the now really doesn't exist in time. The now has nothing to do with time. The now truly is when creation is taking place. This is what the now is. The now is the eternal point of creation. This is it here now. Right now is the eternal point of creation, creating. That can sound like quite a, what's the word, pedantic thing to talk about. Why can't we talk about time within the now? You're more than entitled to talk about the now within time. but there is a deeper point to the now. The now is the point of creation. The now is when the creative force of the universe is fully living, exploring, playing through each and every single one of us. There's nothing outside of it. There's nothing outside of this moment. There's just this. This point of creation coming through each and every single one of us. Every single one of us is looking different. Each of our creation coming through our being is looking different. But it's now. And within this now, we can remember the now throughout our life, throughout our existence, which creates an illusion of time. But really, that's thought. It's memories. And so because we assume of a past, because we can remember a past, we assume of a future. But there's a reason why the sages throughout time and the wise people throughout time have tried to bring people back to the now. It's because when somebody really finds themselves in the now, they meet themselves. Not the story, not the past, not the memories. If you look at your identity, the ego, you'll realize it's a ball of memories. It's everything you've aligned yourself with. History. What's done? The dead. I was saying to somebody on the retreat who was spending an awful lot of time living in the past. There's the appearance of three existences. There's the dead. There's the living, and there's the non-existent. The dead is the past. It's gone. It's done. The living is the now. The only time anything ever takes place, the only time we ever engage in action, the only time thought exists, the only time we feel anything, the only time we interact, the moment. You can't interact with somebody 2 seconds ago, 1 second ago, 0.5 of a second ago. It's impossible. It's dead. Likewise, you can't interact with somebody in the non-existent, the future doesn't exist. The dead, the living, and the non-existent. One of them's real. Something about when we discover the point of creation. Rather than being tangled up in creation, like fishing line. There's something about when we discover the point of creation. There's a freedom that starts to grow within an individual. Because that individual realized that they are actually the now. They are the now. They are what we call the moment. That is what we are. We are that force of creation, dreaming reality into form and experience. To find the now is to find themselves. To find the now is to find the self. The 0 point, the ground zero. Pure thought, pure consciousness. No story. No problems. The world can do whatever the hell the world's doing. No problems. No judgment. Just this. Just this. Just this without a judgment. Just this without a story. And it's amazing, the moment the story dies, all psychological suffering ceases. The moment the story dies, the past dies. It's only resurrected by our thinking. Yeah, the now has nothing to do with time. It's in the now that the illusion of time is born. It's always an illusion. It's one of the most important things anybody can ever discover. Because this life stuff is a massive illusion. There are many illusions within the illusion that we as a society believe in and act as though they're real. We believe in and we act as though it's real, and we base our society around illusions rather than truth. I'm quite excited because I'm one of these people who believes that society is heading more towards truth. I'm one of these people who's really optimistic for humanity and the planet. I don't believe it's going to hell. And I think it's in the process of awakening. The freedom that everybody is looking for is this, here, right now. When the story dies, the prisons collapse, only to be seen that they didn't really exist. Spoken to people in prison, and I've watched lads in prison wake up from the imprisonment of their own mind in front of my eyes. The look of shock on their faces when they realise they've been fooling themselves all along. Lads have stood there in front of me and said, "Can you believe, I'm telling you now, I've never felt more free in my entire life. These walls and these fences are not my prison. My prison was my mind. Lost in time, lost in judgments, lost in beliefs, lost in ego. Ego is a word to describe the sum total of an illusory self. It involves time, involves a history, it involves beliefs. because that's really not who and what we are. Who and what we are is the now, the space from which all reality is emerging. All experience is born. Eternally. I used to think to myself, bullshit. What about castles? Castles have been around for hundreds of years. I used to think to myself, bullshit, I've got photographs. What are photographs of then? The photographs are of the now. They were taken in the now. They exist in the now. They've never left the now either. Castles exist in the state that they do now. They were built in the now. They've only ever existed in the now as well, just like us. Nothing exists outside of the now, in varying states of growth and decay. That's all there is. And when it's realized, it becomes really simple. So yeah, that's what I've been reflecting on this last little while. It's from the moment. Nothing to do with time. The 0 point of creation. Space of true freedom. The only space from which action takes place. The eternalness. The eternity. Even. No, I quite like the eternalness. The eternalness. The point at which there are no problems. Does anybody want to talk about anything? Anybody got anything they want to talk about? Anybody got any questions, any observations, anything they want to share? We'll have a break in about 20 minutes, I think. Jen, do you want to say anything, love?
No, it's just been nice to listen as much as I can. Lucia's had a lot to say, and she's still wide awake.
That was Rusty.
Yeah, hear Rusty as well.
Yeah.
No, I just liked what you were saying, and I think it's just made me get really quiet, despite Rusty and Lucia shouting at me.
That quiet's where it's at. You notice when you go quiet, all the problems disappear. We tend to think of problems as being obstacles in the world. Problems are thoughts. Problems only actually exist in thought. Mute me, Jen. Problems only actually exist in thought. They're a perspective. They're a perspective created in the now that appear to be true and real, just like everything else. They're a judgment. See you, Luke. Loads of love. Poor old Amanda, she's really struggling to get in. You know, there's only actually what's going on. There's only actually what is actually happening now. And whatever judgment we cast upon that is how it appears to us. Everybody casts a different judgment. Everybody sees a different reality. 8.8, well, just turned 8 billion, hasn't it? 2 weeks ago, apparently. The 8th billionth person was born on Earth. 8 billion separate human realities walking the face of the Earth, and each and every single one thinking that it's real. Their reality is the true reality. What a mental point that is. I think that's such a beautiful thing to ponder. There's 8 billion people on Earth. Everybody thinks their reality is the truth. Yet they all see a totally different one. That's why they argue. That's why everybody dresses differently. They like different TV programs. People like different partners, like different names, like different hairstyle, different clothes. They like different places. Some people love being out in nature. Some people can't stand nature. It's terrifying. Some people hate being in the city. Some people love the buzz of the city, blah, 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 blah. And it all looks real. So real, in fact, that I'm going to argue my point is true. Then you've got an argument, then you've got a fight, then you've got a war, then you've got people suffering, you've got people dying, then you've got debt created and all this nonsense, inflation, all this bollocks goes on in this world, all created from the idea, fundamentally from people believing that their reality is true. And it's funny because when you fall out of that, you fall out of that space and you start to discover that, oh no, my reality isn't truth. It's a perspective created from the way I think. It's a reality generated from thought. Shit, and everybody on Earth is doing it too. And I argue everything is doing it. Every tree, every daisy, every plant, every fungus, every bacteria, every cell in the body is a separate reality. You start to get a sense of what this universe actually is. Universe, one verse. This singular verse, this rhythmical song of infinite realities, all in the now, all in the moment, from the one space, infinity from within the one, taking place just on this planet, let alone any other planet. It's a mind-blowing thing we are an aspect of. Yeah, that space of silence, that quiet. When we stop trying to figure it all out, we fall into it. It reveals itself. you start to discover what is true and real. And when you start to discover what's true and real, you start to realize how simple it all is. And when you discover how simple it all is, you laugh at yourself. You realize the only mugger that was mugging you was ourselves. We've been mugging ourselves all along, lost in a creation, misidentifying ourselves as a creation rather than creator. Like an ocean mistaking in itself for a wave. A limitation, a potential within the infinite. And when the ocean suddenly wakes up and realizes, fuck, I'm not just that wave. I am this vast expanse of infinity. It exists as me. The ocean reorientates itself, realizes its illusory limitation, and realizes it's free. Its only constraint was a thought, its only constraint was a wave. And when that wave, that thought doesn't exist, or that problem doesn't exist, like my depression, when I used to struggle with depression. When I used to wake up first thing in the morning and I was living on my own, and I'd wake up in the morning and I'd go, oh, wake up, I was in a peaceful state, just woken up. I'd look around and I'd go, what am I doing here? Why am I living in this house on my own? Oh shit, that's what's happening in my life. Immediately I went into the past, jump into the future, instantly create suffering. There's my depression. But it didn't exist until I thought it. Likewise, it didn't exist if I put on a funny film. No depression when I was watching a funny film. My illness miraculously disappeared. There's only the now. There's only the moment, the 0 point. Anybody, please, anybody want to say anything? I'm tired of my own voice. Amanda, welcome, love. And well done, you're on, I think.
Hiya.
Hiya, love.
You all right?
Which Amanda is it? Seeds?
Yeah.
Oh, get in.
I couldn't get on for ages. I had to update Zoom. It was
How
like
old are you? Oh, I kept letting you in, you kept dropping out.
I know, because I couldn't get it to work, and then it was the app was all out of date. So that's how long it's been since I signed in.
Well, thanks for coming, love.
That's all right. I'm here with the baby, so I'm gonna mute again because he's banging a drum.
All right, cool. I'll see you Thursday.
Just ask a quick question, Dave.
Yes, love.
If you've got a family member who's struggling, I know that we're just supposed to just love them and just like be with them. But as a mum, it's very difficult just not to do anything to try and help them out of the struggles that they're in. And there's a bit of control and urgency involved in my thinking around that. You want to step in and help your family member, but I know that often that you've said all you need to do is just love them. Can you just tell me what you really mean by that? Because it's very difficult just to let them be when they're suffering.
Right, well, there's quite a lot we can talk about in that, love. First and foremost, there's no should or shouldn't do anything. I've never said don't do this, don't do that. I've never said you should just do this, you should just do that. No. Not at all, love. If you believe you can help them, help them. If you think there's something that could make their lives easier, and you've got the ability to do it, and you want to do it, do it. Brilliant. Fantastic. If you want to help, love, help. There's no, if anybody here, Jenny always says this, she says, if you hear any restriction in the principles, that's not the principles. The principles aren't a way to live. They're not like a doctrine. They are fundamental pre-existing force. Wake up, see that's what's creating reality. When you see what's creating reality, you'll find God. But you'll realize that you are that space. Use it wisely. Use your creative capacity wisely. Or you can use it to create mayhem and hell on earth, which is what creates suffering. But it's created from misunderstanding. Yeah. You know, the reason why we talk about if somebody is suffering, love them. I remember when I was really struggling in my life, people would jump in the darkness with me. Psychologists, psychiatrists did, counselors did, doctors did. They jumped into my darkness with me. They affirmed it as being real. You know, this suffering you're going through, Dave, it's really bad. I was told I would have depression for the rest of my life. I was diagnosed as chronically depressed, and I would have it for the rest of my life, and I was told I may be able to find ways to cope with it, but I will never get rid of depression. What a load of shit. That individual didn't know anything about mental health. He didn't know anything about the absolute perfection of existence in every single moment, just with the ability to dream the idea that it isn't. They didn't know that. They were too busy caught up in the form, the Newtonian way of viewing the world. This is more of a quantum physics way of viewing the world. Quantum physics creates Newton's laws, which are real on this earthly plane existence. But there's a fundamental thing that exists that creates them, which is the quantum field, consciousness, God, whatever the hell you want to call it, doesn't matter. So whilst people were looking at me and thinking I was broken, I was terrified, but they were fearful people too. Fear plus fear does not equal mental health. Fear plus fear does not equal love. Fear plus love equals the opportunity for the fear to be alleviated. All suffering is created from fear in one form or another: anxiety, worry, jealousy, whatever the hell it is, greed, all those traits that we don't particularly like in humanity is born of fear, anger, depression. I'm not good enough. The reason why Jen and I share this, and other people share this, everybody who shares this, is in the hope that the individual who's listening will wake up within themselves and realize their perfection. Hoping that they will see past their story, realize, fuck, perhaps it is actually just a story, that shit, it really is a perspective. Reality, my reality is created from a force within me of infinite capacity. There is no end to thought. You can't run out of it. You can't run out of thoughts. It's infinite, infinity within ourselves. Our hope is that people will wake up and realize the perfection that they are. And the moment they realize it's so simple, they will absolutely, categorically, unshakably, the only thing that they will truly know is that everybody is perfectly okay. Just lost in their creation, lost in their thoughts, lost in their feelings. It's all the same thing. You know, sometimes coming from love doesn't have to look fluffy. Sometimes coming from love can be really practical. Sometimes coming from love can be really straight. Don't confuse love for fluffy. Love is not fluffy. Love will tear you up, tear your ego apart. Strip you into a billion shreds, metaphorically. True love, divine love, is brutal. It's brutal. Brutal in its beauty and perfection. I don't really worry about people anymore. Anybody who comes to work with Jenny and I, we don't worry about them. We know they're all right. Spiritually, they're safe. Spiritually, they're whole. They're just like an ocean lost in the waves. Like an ocean looking up at its surface and seeing the turbulence. And going, shit, look at all that turbulence. From the point of stillness that they are. But then getting so mesmerized by the turbulence, they start to buy into it and experience it and think it's, oh shit, that's all there is just turbulence. Just waves everywhere, smashing and crashing. When in actual fact, what everybody is the point of stillness. Just a few meters below the surface. So when it comes to what should you do, you will only ever do what you think is right in the moment. Ever. My only thing that I would say is, if you can see their wholeness and if you can speak to their wholeness, if you don't affirm their story, it has the ability to alleviate quicker. If you have people that you trust around you telling you there's something wrong with you, it just creates a sense of ego, deeper suffering. The one person that helped me was a lady called Sue, who introduced me to the principles, and she just spoke really normally to me. She spoke to me like I was fine. Yeah, I upped the ante. I wanted her to think I was fucked up. She didn't see it. She couldn't see my fucked up. She could see my story. She couldn't see my fucked up. She was the one person out of all the, God knows how many people I saw. She was the one person who didn't buy into my story, and she just showed me love. And to this day, she's one of my best friends. She introduced me to myself. Not the self that I went there to talk about. The man, the most scary human being on the planet, as I used to describe myself, because I was mental. I was violent and I was aggressive. I was an intimidating man. Probably to nobody more so than to myself. But she introduced me to myself. I got to experience what it is, and it's divine. It's pure, unbelievable, unspeakable, unquantifiable, immeasurable love. And that broke my ego. It killed my ego. It shredded it. And it exists at the heart of everyone. And it's waiting to come through. It wants to show everybody. It wants to show itself. It wants to be there. That's what it wants to be. That's what life's all about. It's about discovering ourselves. This journey of life is about discovering ourselves. It's about reconnecting, not that we've ever been disconnected. It's about awakening beyond the dream, beyond the story, beyond the fucked up, to the perfection. Life isn't difficult. Life lives. Nobody's taught us how to live life. Life just lives us. Life lives us. Or should I say, we are the life that lives. That would be more accurate. What we mistaken life for is its goings on, what it creates. Like an ocean mistaken in itself for a wave. A limitation, a potential. It could create a totally different potential and have a totally different experience, which it does in every single moment. We're never in the same experience throughout the day. Look back at today. You've gone in and out of all different experiences. You've seen many different things. You've felt many different feelings. You've spoken to all kinds of different people. You've created all of it through the physiology and consciousness. The way we thought about things is how they've appeared to us. That's all that's going on for the individual who's suffering and having a hard time. So you do what you think's right, love. There's no shoulds or shouldn'ts. There's a logic. If you buy into people's sufferings, it helps to grow it, compound it, make it look more real. I'm not saying it doesn't appear real, it looks so real. In fact, it is the reality, that it is their reality. It's real. They really experience that. But what they're experiencing is only a potential. They could experience a whole different potential. A whole new thought. Sydney Banks used to say, you are one thought away from mental health and you are one thought away from mental illness. But he didn't see mental illness as being a disease. It was just a descriptive word to describe suffering. You were one thought away from mental health, you were one thought away from mental illness. You're one thought away from heaven, you're one thought away from hell. Dead simple. We don't realize the magnitude of thought. The magnitude, I used to think it was like a little, yeah, there's all the shit going on in the world, but there's this thought stuff. And perhaps I ask people, how many times do you think a day? Some people say 8. I get that. I understand why they'd say that. No. Thought is consciousness, creating. Creating a dream, just like the dream of a nighttime. The dream of a nighttime looks so real. I've been having very vivid dreams lately. Very vivid images, and they look so real. So much so, I had a dream about a friend who I hadn't seen for a long time the other night. And I felt their presence for the whole morning. I could feel their energy with me. I dreamt such a vivid dream, such a vivid reality within my horizontal sleep state. It was as real as this. And we think that the sleep state and the awake states are 2 different states of being, but they're not. They're the same state of being. They're consciousness creating reality. One we take seriously, the awake state, and the other state we don't take seriously. And we go, thank God it was just a dream. We don't realize, no, it's just a dream now. Anything we encounter as an experience, in our experience, is just a perception. Is it right? Is it wrong? I'm not saying things don't happen in the world. Things certainly happen in the world. The way we encounter it. It's a perception. There isn't 2 modalities of working, the awake state and the sleep state. They're both the same state. Consciousness creating reality. When my niece went into suffering, she had a big breakdown and she went into psychosis. Half the family wanted to take her to a psyche ward and get her medicated, and we wanted to love her through it. Thankfully, we won. God, and we loved her through it. It's challenging, scary. Within a few weeks, she was back at school. Love and patience, love and patience, love and patience. And when you run out of love and patience, love and patience. That's what came to me. And that went for me as well, for myself. Right, we've totally gone over break time. Let's take 10 minutes. Welcome back. I just wanted to read this thing that my sister wrote. Time is not running out, discontented soul, because it does not exist. It is as much an illusion as the dreams you have at night and the life you live in the day. Do not chase the illusion of time, because you'll never get there, you see. You'll never get to the imaginings of your mind, because you are living each and every one in this moment. You are never behind, running out of time, or lost. You are living in the energy of the moment, bringing you your dream as you dream. Then there's nowhere else. Lean out. Feel their beautiful essence in the echo between the energy of your thought and the vessel that receives. You are magnificent. Yeah, anybody who knows my sister knows that's not how she speaks. That's not her language. If that was my sister, for every place that she's put a comma in that, which is few and far between. It would be an F word or a C bomb. So I know that's not my sister writing that. She's some lass. She's ace. Kelly, you know her. She's mental. I know Sam does as well. And Julie. Right, has anybody got anything they want to say? Any words, any questions? Any reflections? Angie, you happy?
Yes, thank you.
Go, love.
Dave, can I ask a question?
You may indeed, sir. I'll go for it, man.
I'm kind of curious, where do you think dreams and desires fit in terms of, when people have got so I've got a big dream, or I've got a big dream I want to get after, but I don't know if I should, and it kind of looks like it's part of the non-existent. It's something to do with the future. And there seems to me to be sometimes like almost a little bit of a conflict between wanting to be really present and connected to now, which I really like how you described it and felt that. And at the same time, wanting to be up to something in the world, wanting to be creative, wanting to get after the dreams. And I was just curious how you reconcile those two things, or any insights you have on that.
It's all the same thing, mate. Yeah, absolutely. If there's any limitation, it's not the principles, it's a thought. There's no limitation. We are divine creator, born into this world by a physical body. Okay. What was revealed to me was we exist outside of this body. When we die, you don't die. You go into another plane of existence, another reality, a whole new dimension, for want of another word. You don't die. Death's not real. We're creator in that space as well. And it's like, I remember listening to a channeled message by a lady called Sheila Gillette. She channels somebody called Theo, and somebody asked the question, what's the meaning of life? And I loved Theo's response. They said, because apparently they're a they said, the meaning of life is to live. But I think what you are asking is, how do I use my creative capacity to create fulfillment and joy for myself? How do we use this creative capacity of thought, consciousness, mind, ourselves, this creative infinite potential to create fulfillment and joy for ourselves? Well, we do what we enjoy. Jesus was asked in the book of Thomas, there's a question posed to Jesus, and it's, how do you best serve God? Do you give alms? Do you give money to church, or to whatever it would have been, what's the Jewish church called? The synagogue? Do you do this? Do you do that? And Jesus said, no. You just do that you enjoy. You do that you love. When you feel moved to create, it's very different creating from the space of the now, where everything seems to go into alignment. In sport, they call it the flow state. They call it getting in the zone. I was in the zone. I could just do it without thinking. You know, you watch boxers, they don't think about every single punch that they don't consciously think, should I say, about every single punch that they throw or every punch that they dodge. They're moved via thought. You remove thought from the equation, they're flat on their asses with bust up faces. But they are present. And creation flows through them. See, that's the only thing that's ever taking place, is creation flowing through us. You know, I went to South Africa with Jen, and we were working out there, and we had 30 tweens, they call them tweens, between 8 and 13-year-olds, these little kids, 30 of them. Mother came up to me and said, "If you speak to my son, I don't want to put him on medication." I said, "How old is he?" She said, he's 9. I said, "Good. Why would you want to put him on medication? What for?" She said, he's not sleeping." Right, yeah. She said, "Dave," she said, "I just have to tell you," she said, "see all these kids?" She said, "I know for a fact 95% of them are on Ritalin." These tiny little kids, these beautiful little children on psychiatric drugs. Calm them down. I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, because they're not paying enough attention in school." So I asked the question, is what they're learning remotely interesting to the kids? Because if I'm learning something I'm not interested in, I don't pay a blind bit of attention. However, if it's something that makes my heart sing, you've got my full attention, and I find it so easy to learn. But if not, I don't pay any attention. I find it very difficult to understand it because I'm not paying attention. It's not a mental illness. It's not a medical matter. It's just that every single human being on earth is born with different interests. I think that's a really beautiful thing, because that's what makes the world flow. Some people like building things. Some people like theorizing about things, thinking things out, solving problems, physics. Some people like, some are artists, they like to paint. Some people like to drive. Some people like to talk to screens. Makes my heart sing. This is what I enjoy doing. It's not for everybody. So yeah, when you get inspired, it becomes effortless. But it is in the now that you find yourself in the most powerful state. But then, you use the now to come up with dreams of the future. This isn't about saying, don't think about the future, don't think about the past. No shoulds or shouldn'ts in this. The future doesn't exist. It's unformed potential. The past is formed potential that's dead. The now is the space and from which it emerges. Forever. It's the only thing that actually exists. It's like my sister wrote in that thing. She said, "Do not chase the illusion of time, because you will never get there, you see. You will never get to the imaginings of your mind. It's all fluid, never changing. You set off in one direction and inevitably you find yourself going in a totally different direction, evolving." I think that when you start to come to the conclusion of what you were saying, and realizing it's all the same thing, there's a fluidity that kind of, you were like, right, this is what I'd like to do now. How am I going to get there? And when you truly want something, I truly wanted to go and work in prisons. That was my dream for my future. I want to go and work in prisons. I want to go, I've been to prison. I know what it's like. I know there's some really good people stuck behind those big ass doors. 23 hours a day. Scared. Daren't show it. I know they're scared. And I really wanted to do that. And I sent off loads and loads of letters thinking this is going to be the way, this is going to be the way, this is going to be the way. Somebody's going to get back to me. Nobody got back to me. When I had my death experience, for want of a better word, I believe I met an angel. And I speak to her every day. And I went to bed this one night so discontent, so fed up that I couldn't, that nobody was coming back to me because I knew that what I had could help change people's lives. I went to bed and I was just like, Lucy, my daughter's named after Lucy. Luce, send me somebody to come work, to get me into working in prisons, would you? Send me some help. And 10 days later or so, I think it was about 10 days later, I was cleaning my stuff on a Sunday afternoon after doing a job. I was a tree surgeon after doing a job on a Sunday, which I never did. It was an emergency job. And this one Sunday I went and cleaned up this emergency big ass branch that had fallen into a road. So I thought, well, I'll clean my kit. I never cleaned my kit. I hated my kit, let alone looked after it. I didn't want to be a tree surgeon. And this lady walks past down my lane. Now, my lane, anybody who's been to my house knows it's not exactly the biggest thoroughfare. It's not Oxford Street. And I said, how are you doing? You all right? She was smartly dressed. She said, yeah, I'm fine, thanks. She said, but I am lost. She said, could you help me? I said, where are you trying to get to? She said, the gateway in. I said, yeah, you're on the wrong road. I said, jump in my van. I'll run you up. So it'll take us 2 minutes. She got in the van, driving up the road. The little voice came in my head and said, ask her what she does for a living. I said, do you mind me asking you what you do for a living? She said, no, she said, I've just taken a managerial role with a charity that works with the well-being of offenders. It's called User Voice. I said, I knew it. This lady had stopped on the train too many stops, and she was telling me, oh, she can't understand why I can't believe I didn't get off in Kendal and I got off in Staveley. I can't believe I did that. I feel so stupid. And I said to her, I think you're supposed to stop on the train to meet me. So I bought her a drink at the pub, spoke to her for an hour, and she said, I want you working with me. Went for an interview, 30 people or so were at this interview. I got the job. I got to go into prisons and share. We don't understand, we don't realize that behind this reality, beyond the form, is so many potentials, including other frequencies of being that are available for help, to help us. Very few people ask. Very few people ask for help. The reason why I ended up coming across the principles was I realized I could manifest things into being in the world after my death experience and meeting Lucy. I could bring things into the world, things that I wanted, people and events. I couldn't find happiness. I couldn't find peace. And that's when I asked for peace, and that's when I got introduced to Sue, who then introduced me to Sydney Banks. This reality is not what it looks like. It looks fixed and real. It's fluid. I call consciousness the ultimate democracy in a time when democracy looks to be falling apart. It never has, because consciousness is the ultimate democracy. The force behind the physical calls the shots. How we believe en masse creates the world. Yeah, the reconciliation lies in realizing the moment is all that exists. Truly. It's the space from which your dreams emerge. And it's the space from which your action is taken. Go dream. Go play. You can't get life wrong. It's impossible to get life wrong. It doesn't exist. Not even if you end up accidentally dying or on purpose. You can't get it wrong. It's bigger than the physical. It's more comprehensive than the physical. It's less limited than what we see. You can't get life wrong. Go play. That's what it's all about. It's go play, because that's all it's all about. What do you want to do? You don't need a qualification to do it. 99% of the time, you can figure it out. I was told I could never work with vulnerable people because I've got a criminal record for violence. Fuck that. I've worked with thousands of vulnerable people. No limitation, only the limitation that we place upon ourselves as a thought, as a judgment, as a belief. And those thoughts, judgments, and belief are only as limited as we believe them to be. Done unto you as you believe. Jesus Christ. It's done unto you as you believe. Go play. Does that make sense? I've answered your question.
Yeah, no, totally. When you said there are no restrictions other than thought, and that it was all the one that it just clicked straight away as that, you can have a dream or an inspired thought, and then it's act on that versus think. Like once thought gets in, then that can be the restriction. And so yes, it did. And play is always in the now. And you don't know where it's going to lead. Like that's the other thing I heard. Like you've no idea where it's going to lead, but it will lead somewhere if you take the step and trust that the universe kind of has your back. That's what I keep. What I hear what you say, what I keep coming back to is remembering to have the faith that the universe has your back, and so that you can take the step in a direction that you think you know, but actually you have no idea. It's just stepping into that kind of creative place, I guess.
You are the universe. Plain you're not. That's what the crack of this life is. We are the universe pretending we're not. We're in the Lord's Prayer, it says, on earth as it is in heaven, all the power that exists within the heavenly realm, the spiritual realm, the uncreated or the divinely created exists within every single being on this planet, on this earth. We are the universe. The universe hasn't got our back. The universe is our back. We are that creates. We're just pretending that we're not. We've forgotten that we are. We're playing the game of separation from God, not realizing that the God self, now this is a difficult one depending on where you're from in Ireland, and how entangled you are into Catholicism, because I remember speaking in a prison once and this Catholic priest telling me, I don't appreciate you calling God energy. And I didn't say I don't appreciate you calling God him. But it's like, we're very regimented and rigid with our ideas of what we think God is. You cannot know what God is. It's impossible. You can't know it, but you are it. To know something is an intellectual process. It's to take the infinite and collapse it into a potential, like an ocean creating a wave. That wave is an aspect of the ocean. but it looks different. It looks individual compared to the next wave. It looks separate to the next wave. Oh, look at that wave. Look at that wave. Look at that massive wave. Wow, look at that little ripple. They all look like they're separate from each other. When we get tangled up in the waves, the intellect, our intellectual thinking, the intellect can't know its origin. It's impossible for it to do so because our origin is irrational. The intellect only really works in rational. So it's like falling out of that space. It's an irrational space to kind of find, to want to be. I want to be in the now. No, I want to be in full fucking control. I want to be in full fucking control of my life. I don't want to let go. I can't let go. I can't let go of this belief. It keeps me safe. I can't let go of that belief. It keeps me safe. I can't let go of that person from those years ago because it's my whole identity. Who am I without it? You've never been it. Nobody's ever been it. It's not what we are. It's an illusion. Hold on to these things that we think keep us safe. No, it's irrational. The whole shebang is irrational. Existence is irrational. How does form come from nothing? It's irrational. But it exists. That space exists. That paradigm exists. Go play. Can't get it wrong. It's a dance. We are the universe. There's nothing that's got our back. We are our back. It is our back. It's what we're made of. Everything is made out of it. It made everything out of itself. And I talk to you as a separate human being, but really we're just consciousness talking to ourselves. We're energy talking to itself. Universe, one, all one. Go create. Go and live your full life. Go play. Can't get it wrong. Cannot get it wrong. And just that whole thing. Seek and ye shall find. You will. Everybody does. Everybody will. Everybody on earth will discover their true origin. At some point. It might not be this lifetime. They certainly will when they die. But I think an awful lot of people will this lifetime. An awful lot. The majority of people, I think, will this lifetime. And when they do, the world will change. Again, I've gone off on one.
That was cool. Thank you.
No, you're welcome, man. Thank you for being here.
That's been a pleasure.
Thanks for your question. That's cool. Cool question.
If we're about to finish, can we finish with sending some love? We haven't
Yeah.
done that for a while.
Yeah. Should we do that? I'd like that. Nice one, Julie. Has anybody got a question before we finish, or any observation, anything they want to say? Jen, have you got anything you want to say? I know you've been looking after Lou's. And Rusty.
She's asleep actually, but yeah, I've just loved listening. It's been quite nice actually. I missed the last bit. What you said you were going to do?
Oh, we're going to do Do the silence, 5 minutes.
Oh no. Rusty's just doing his 10,000 steps. Thank you. It's been really nice just to listen in.
Oh, cool. Thanks for looking after the kid. Are you speaking, Jen? Is your microphone knackered? Jen?
No, I turned it off.
All right.
Really?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
It sounded like there was some garbled voices coming at you on my laptop. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm just going to stop the recording. Just say thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. This is nice for me. You know, I don't live my life constantly in the now, although that's the only thing that exists. I get caught up in my illusion. I play with the dance of life. I have a respect for the illusion, deep respect. I have a deep respect for life. I have a deep respect for how convincingly real the suffering is. I don't sit here as any guru or anything like that. I really don't. I sit as somebody who's discovered something about life that I hope I can help find a tribe of people who are interested in me, wish to share that journey with me. Some people are interested and some people aren't. But like I say, I created this out of a space of loneliness. And I've really enjoyed it so far. When we get lost in time, it's not us doing life wrong. We can't do this wrong. It's not wrong to think anything. There are no wrong thoughts. No such thing as a wrong thought or a wrong feeling, wrong emotion. There's no such thing as wrong. That's a perspective, that's a judgment. There's in alignment with truth and there's outside of alignment with truth. Truth is unity, singular, oneness, love. Out of alignment is lostness, duality, separation, which creates fear. I realized the other week after really losing my shit in a cut in a hedge, threw a chain, stuck the chainsaw in my leg. Thankfully, I was wearing my chainsaw pants. If it had gone that far below where it hit, it would have hit my inner thigh. Threw the chainsaw. Fuck this shit. Got out of the tree. I was in a right foul mood. Made my mother-in-law cry. Jenny said, "I think you better go home. I think you're right." I remember really just getting so lost and fed up and pissed off with myself. No. You're not good enough. You're not good enough. All this nonsense. Shouting at myself. Really lost my shit. The next day, when the dust had settled, little voice came in my head and said, the further you go into suffering, the further into unreality you have entered. Now, we're a funny species. We tend to think along the lines of the negative, what we perceive to be the negative, is closer to the real world than anything else. Life's a bitch. and you die. Life's hard, yeah, but life's not easy. The little boy said, the further into suffering we go, the further into unreality we have entered. Reality being love and unity, singularity and freedom. Hell, I've heard it described as the confinement of consciousness. How do you confine consciousness? You believe. You create a belief. The moment you believe something, you've taken infinite potential and you've suddenly created a limitation or a boundary or a wall, an edge. So many people create so many edges that they create this kind of flat world that they walk upon where you can walk off the edge. They become fearful. They don't want to step off the edge of their flat world. It's only a belief. It's created from belief. Hell. A space of suffering. A place of pain. Torment. Heaven and hell exist as potentials within everybody right now. Heaven being an open state of mind. René Descartes, a French poet, I think he was, Christian mystic poet, said, the least blasphemous word for God is openness. When we're in that open state of mind, when new ideas can be born, not living in the rigidity of our ego, our previously thought knowledge, all our limitations of what's possible and what's impossible. It's all made up. It's all made up. We make it all up. Further into suffering we go, further into unreality we have entered. And to start to find reality is what this is all about. Because we're living as though the unreality is the truth. And that's why this world is chaotic right now. Depending on how you look. Ali, do you want to read that poem and then we'll do our thing?
It's called Come to the Edge. You were talking about the edge, and I read this morning. Come to the edge, we might fall. Come to the edge, it's too high. Come to the edge, and they came, and he pushed, and they flew.
Oh. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, love. Thank you, everyone. Now, anybody who wants to leave, please feel free to leave. But what we like to do is, if we can, we like to send out love to this world, places and people that we know are suffering right now. Send out love. Send out loving intention, loving thought. It may be somebody you know personally. It may be a group of people. It may be a war zone. It may be to politics. Maybe to a financial system, who knows? Love is truth. It says, I mean, I'm not a Bible basher, I'm not a religious man in the slightest, but In the Bible, it says, God is truth. God is love. Truth will set you free. It's all the same thing. And it's real. It's really real. It's not just a belief. So with that in mind, love is a high frequency. Everything is energy. The frequency of love is far more powerful than the frequency of unreality. As the frequency of humanity rises, Sydney Banks described that as consciousness rises, the world changes for the better. So I'm going to stop the recording and say thank you everybody who's watching this later on. God bless, loads of love.